watched as complacency replaced discipline. We sat on the sidelines as clickbait replaced our history. And we kept silent as our skill sets and careers became automated, antiquated, routine, and forgotten. This is unacceptable. We're here to guide you towards putting down your number and reclaiming your given name. We're here to guide you towards your vision of freedom. The world has changed, and there's no more room for willful ignorance. So to those happy with being stuck, with being complacent, this podcast's not for you. But to those looking for more, follow us as we reclaim it all. For our children, for our grandchildren, and for future generations to come.
From somewhere deep undercover in the Pacific Northwest, this is the American Reveille Podcast, and here is your host, James Lane.
All right, good morning and happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen, or whatever day you're actually listening to this. I mean, this is 2020, and with everything we've seen this fucking year, I hope at the end of it, we still at least can listen to podcasts whenever we'd like to. So I've been getting some feedback, so we've been making some small changes. We made a couple little small changes to the website, a couple little changes within the podcast layout, a few things just on feedback of things people have told us and the metrics that we're seeing. So we're already working to improve the show, and we're in the 11th episode, so it's just going to get better and better and better. From what I'm hearing from the people who've been listening to it, and it's not a huge crowd, but we got a couple people, maybe 40 or 50 people so far, and that's good, and I'm glad, and I really appreciate the support so far. So those people, pretty much saying that the first episode was a little shaky, but it's getting better and better and better. And that's all I'm expecting. I'm not expecting to have this be a rock star production from day one. I'm realistic, but as we practice and as we master our craft, we're going to get better and better. So this brings me to a point, and that point is that no one's perfect, and we miss opportunities all the time. All of us miss opportunities all the time. And even as we continue to improve ourselves and reach new levels of growth, that doesn't mean that everybody isn't capable of screwing it up from time to time. Just try not to blow up the entire foundation you've built everything upon or are currently building. And speaking of missed opportunities, I'm looking at an article right now in the New York Times entitled Murder Hornets. You heard that. I said murder hornets in the U.S., the rush to stop the Asian giant hornet. It says sightings of the Asian giant hornet have prompted fears that the vicious insect could establish itself in the United States and devastate bee populations. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to do my very best to say hornet as much as possible. This thing is a hornet. If I screw up and say bee, don't come kill me, okay? I'm going to do the best I can here, but it shows a picture here of a Washington State entomologist. His name is Chris Looney. I just want to give him credit. And he has one of these bees on his jacket, and I guess it's dead. It says it's dead. But this thing's literally, look at your thumb. Look at your thumb right now and imagine a hornet, like a wasp type, big cartoony looking hornet, like a creepy crawler from one of those Easy Bake Ovens when you were a kid, or even better, like from the Halloween section in a dollar store. It literally looks fake. It says in reference to a beekeeper named Ted McFall. As he pulled his truck up to check up on a group of hives near Custer, Washington in November, he could spot from the window a mess of bee carcasses on the ground. As he looked closer, he saw a pile of dead members of the colony in front of a hive and more carnage inside. Thousands and thousands of bees with their heads torn from their bodies and no sign of a culprit. Oh, don't worry, guys. It only gets worse. With queens that can grow to 2 inches long, this is the murder hornet, Asian giant hornets can use their mandibles shaped like spiked shark fins to wipe out a honeybee hive in a matter of hours. Listen to this, guys. Decapitating the bees and flying away with the thoraxes. That's like your abdomen. If you look down and look at your belly and your chest and stuff, those bees are flying away, or those hornets are flying away with the bees' abdomens to feed their children. It says for larger targets, the hornet's potent venom and stinger long enough to puncture a beekeeping suit. That's great. Make for an excruciating combination. Are you ready, guys? That victims have likened to hot metal driving into your skin. Just imagine taking like a hot poker, a piercing needle or a sewing needle, and just putting it under like a blowtorch and just sticking it through your fingernail. Just, oh, that's what this thing is supposed to feel like. It says in Japan, the hornets kill up to 50 people a year, and now, for the first time ever, they've arrived in the United States. So they have a picture of this thing head on, and it's absolutely the thing of what nightmares are made of. It's terrifying. If I could imagine hell, it would be filled with them. It literally looks like a space alien, one of those gray space alien things with a lobster claw duct taped to its face. That's literally what it is. It's a lobster claw space alien, and it's absolutely terrifying. So whoever missed that opportunity, that wasn't cool, bro. It really, really wasn't. And I personally am not forgiving you for bringing the murder hornet into the U.S. So anyway, at the rate 2020 is going, I fully expect the next headline to tell me that the murder hornets have contracted COVID-19 and now are attacking people. And that's how the pandemic's resurging. That's literally, we're going to have an army of murder hornets with COVID-19 just coming at everybody. So get prepared. Get your electric tennis oh, that could be a new sport, actually. Electric tennis rackets. And anyway, let's get back to the show. So when speaking of foundations, like we were before we went on the wild tangent about murder hornets back there, we're talking about foundations. And there's a lot of people who right now, right in front of their eyes, are watching their foundations disintegrate. And unfortunately, this pandemic and the economic closures have really led to millions and millions and millions of people without jobs in the United States and people starving and around the world, hundreds of millions starving. So it's not a great thing. But if you've managed not to be in that category, or you did decent enough to have some reserve while waiting for unemployment, then this really should be a time of reflection for you. So I have to ask you, who the hell do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And is that the same thing as who you really are? Take a break from worrying if you are, and take some action internally. Let's take a look deep inside ourselves and ask ourselves some hard questions. I said at the end of the third episode of the American Reveille Podcast, which, by the way, is now on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, it's YouTube, it's all over. I said at the end of that episode a saying in Latin, and I'll repeat it for those who didn't catch it. I said, nosce te ipsum, which means know thyself. Nosce te ipsum, figure out who the hell you are. The good, the bad, the ugly. Nosce te ipsum, get comfortable with your demons. And nosce te ipsum, be prepared to burn it all to the ground. You better know who the hell you are and what you're made of, because it's gonna be time to rebuild. It's time to get back to the drawing boards. You know, maybe we should do some sort of show on that, like how you figure out who you are and what you're made of, or maybe like where we talk about all the different failures we've gone through and how they've rebuilt us and molded us into better people. I really have a lot of experience in that department. I know a lot of you out there do too. So it would be really cool to talk about that. Let me know if that sounds like a cool topic, and, you know, we'll draft something up. But I'm assuming that you're assuming that you have a pretty good grasp on yourself, and you're going to try to figure out what the hell to do, or where the hell to move the pieces on the chessboard to give yourself some breathing room, or even worse for some, the clock may be ticking before the money and food run out. And I've been there too, many, many times, more times than I'd like to think about. Then again, you know, sometimes to this day, guys, I like to take 2 ramen. I take the soup packets, right? not the cup stuff, but like the little silver package of high blood pressure salt powder packets. And I take those and I toss them in the garbage, and I just boil the noodles and I strain them. And I put one of those little small cans of Hunt's tomato sauce, not the basil other one, just the normal one. The other ones taste like fucking garbage, but I pour that over. It's like 99 cents. It's like $1 meal. It's a steal. So if anybody's out there with some high overhead, there's a meal for you right there. 2 ramen noodles, Hunt's tomato sauce, boom, 99 cents. Anyway, this is precisely why it's essential to know who the hell you are and where you stand when you run into a nasty snag like what's happening around the country and really around the world right now. If you don't have your shit screwed down tight, if your head isn't right, you honestly won't have the confidence, the creativity, or as we've mentioned before, the firmness to see this through and come out on the up and up when it's all over, when we get to the other side of it. And that's a fact, Jack. That's a fact. All day smothered and covered, baby. Listen, if you were just a department manager or a secretary or even a business analyst, you may be waiting for unemployment to kick in right now. I'm not incorrect in this statement, am I? While you're waiting, while you're in this perpetual limbo you may be in, you need to take a second and blink. You need to shut off the TV. You need to reflect upon your situation, on yourself, on your capabilities. Everybody's built differently, and while at the same time, everybody has certain similarities. There's beauty in this balance, and to me, at least, this is how it's always worked. Look, these differences allow for outside-of-the-box pathways to be forged. Let me explain. You have to be really comfortable with yourself and all of your deep, dark insecurities to be able to look into yourself, to look into the mirror and really figure out how to turn left when all signs point right, or what I call taking a sledgehammer to our own invisible ceilings. I said it in a previous episode before. If there's a door, go through it. And if it's locked, go through the window. And if that window happens to have bars on it, you drive a truck through the wall. Look, that's the point of getting back to the drawing board. It's figuring out how you can forge outside of the box pathways of personal and professional development and success when there seems to be no crossing over the ravine, no clearing in the woods. I never said it would be easy, and sometimes it's good for us to navigate the dark, scary forests. It's in our genetics. It gives you a good baseline of where you stand and what you're really made of, and it gives you things to work on. Just remember that everything has an end. And if you think back to other tough situations in your life, those came and went as well. And so shall this. The question becomes this. The question is, will you be better from it? Will anything change? Does anything really need to change? Do you just need to act? You have to question yourself. Some of us are great web designers, great leaders, hell, great proctologists, but greatness doesn't guarantee longevity. Hard work and strategy coupled with creativity does. And sprinkle a little consistency on there too, and you have a pretty good mix. I've asked this question probably 50 times already on these podcasts, and I'm about to ask it again, so brace yourself. How bad do you want it? Or maybe even in this case, we could rephrase that question for many people. How bad do you want to survive? How deep does your primal instinct to not only get through this situation, but to dominate it and to come through better on the other side? How deep does that instinct go inside of you? How bad do you want to survive? I started a personal training company less than a decade ago, and that thing went belly up just in a couple months, maybe 6 months. It didn't fail because it was a terrible idea or because it was in the wrong location. In fact, it was in a great location in South Florida. It just failed because, and it took me many years to learn this, but it failed because I sucked ass at consistency and discipline. And it took so much more failure, so much more to learn that. But when things happen in your life that give you that sink or swim choice, that survive and thrive or drown in debt and misery, sometimes that discipline, that consistency, sometimes it comes to you. So the real dirty truth here is plain and simple. If you want it bad enough, whatever it may be for you, you will at least have or should have the basic proper mental framework to keep you going and growing in the right direction when things get rough. So we get back to the basics. We suck it up. We end the pity party and we drive forward. And if we've already done that, then that's even better. Fan-diddly-tastic. We can skip about 100 steps. So now that we've established that we need to rebuild ourselves from the ground up, we're going to have to take a little trip to the mental tool shed. And we're going to get into the entire mental tool shed concept in a minute. And I promise you, it sounds like one, but it's not a bar. So as many of you already know, I sponsor this entire show, and I really want to give back what I've learned so that I can help push forward this wake-up call that a lot of us are feeling here in the States and around the world. And I kind of run these little 1-minute thingies, and I wouldn't really call them ads or anything. It's just kind of my own funny, shameless self-promotion for the show and for social media and stuff. So once in a while, you're going to get like a fun surprise, like little fake commercials and things that I kind of made little audio recordings of and stuff. Just really good production and kind of some fun writing. So we'll talk again in a second, and stick around for the tool shed, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back with more of the American Reveille Podcast with James Lane. The American Reveille Podcast with James Lane would like to take a moment to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to tune into the show. It's because of great fans like you that we strive to deliver the best quality content one can create as fast as one can fling the pen. With that being said, a good little boy never misses his opportunity to sell himself, and though James would never ask you for your money, he would like to let you know that if you absolutely love this podcast, the writing, the art, its production, anything, please do us the personal favor of liking, sharing, tweeting, texting, and talking about this podcast. James Lane is a father, a husband, a U.S. Navy veteran, and is personally committed to the success of the American Reveille Podcast. Please email James Lane directly at podcast@AmericanReveille.com, or please visit our website at www.AmericanReveille.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Tool Shed. Ladies drink free before 11 p.m. Cash only. Present ID at the door. Oh, shit. Sorry, guys. Flashback to my bouncer days. Anyway, we've pulled up our whitey tighties. We have our galoshes on, and we're big boys and big girls getting ready to take a trip to the gardens of our imagination. It's weird for you yet? No? Let's get a little weirder. So, in this garden, in your imagination, there's a shed, a tool shed to be exact. And what are tool sheds filled with? No, not Maynard CDs. They're filled with tools, guys. These are mental tools, and I guess you could call them our tools of the trade. We as individuals have developed over the years as a result of repetitive experiences and gradual adaptation. In other words, some shit we get good at and some shit we don't, and some shit we get decent at. And the ones we find out we have a knack for, even if we don't realize it, they kind of get stored away in our subconscious and can be adapted for all kinds of other applications. So don't worry, I won't make it stranger. The friendly goat dude from Narnia is not going to pop out in this analogy. Or will he? But I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying we have to visualize these things sometimes. And believe me, it helps tremendously. I didn't learn this stuff easy. So really, I wouldn't be giving you unproven concepts. So a quick sidebar that relates to our tool shed concept. Have any of you ever worked in retail or any type of business that had to take an inventory of products? This is our tool shed. That's kind of what we're doing. We're looking internally with one of those little inventory scanners and seeing what the hell is in stock and what's on back order, what the numbers are. Do you want a personal example? Why not? Let's do it. So I was an electronics technician in the Navy, and I learned how to build, repair, and use expensive electronic equipment like AV equipment, communication stuff. And in fact, I was the work center supervisor for what basically was the audio visual center of the ship. So I pretty much know some good audio visual production work. Remember, guys, we're digging for tools here. So what else? I was a singer in a heavy metal band for a couple of years, and I played dozens and dozens of shows, which allowed me to be comfortable in front of crowds of people and talk to people. And I'm really an introvert. Also, I had to teach myself how to use Photoshop back then because no one knew how to do the flyers and advertising. There's a tool. I'm having some fun. Let's do some more inventory. I thought I was going to be a pro wrestler, and when I was in my teens, and I can back this up, I trained for it. Not that backyard shit either. And it's kind of funny. I actually went to The Rock's dad and tried to go get training from him, but I just couldn't afford it. And I remember begging that guy, and he just wouldn't do anything for me. So I ended up going somewhere else. But I got trained 100%. I did shows. I worked on and off for a few, years here and there. And I even got to help at a few big live shows in Orlando. And I never went anywhere with it. I failed tremendously at it. Anybody you ever ask about my pro wrestling ability and pro wrestling career, I promise you, I'm going to tell you right up front so nobody can call me out for shit later. They will tell you I was garbage. I was the shits. I barely could fucking function. I got my ass beat a bunch of times, and it's all true. It's absolutely true. But I will tell you something else. What an education. Live television, understanding the flow of TV production from observation. Check. Meeting and talking to some famous people along the way and getting a taste of what it really could be like to make it at something. Check. You want to know something else? You know what else you learn from pro wrestling? You learn how to cut a promo. If you can cut a promo, which if you're not educated in pro wrestling, and I'm not expecting you to be, is an improv, like a one or two sided conversation that you would do on the fly in front of a live audience. It's very, theatrical. It's like acting in front of people, but no script. Maybe there's a script now, but anyway, that's a different story. But man, if you can cut a promo, you can cut a podcast, can't you? Look, I'm on a roll, so I want to dig a little bit deeper. All that crazy hard work, all those failures, many more failures than successes, my chess moves, my poker hands, the luck I found and the luck I made, they all led me to fall in love with history. And the military paid for a Bachelor of Science, which led me to fall in love with writing. Don't tell the wifles, but I cheat on her with writing every day. I never considered myself really smart, but the rough road taught me consistency and the value of hard work. So I just wrote 10,000 times more than anyone else did. And I got hard quick with my writing. And then I went further because all the writing and research made me realize that I was good at puzzles and I enjoyed them. And I decided an MBA would be pretty challenging. So that taught me a lot of stuff that you could imagine would help a podcast, coupled with all of the other stuff I've learned along the way in business and in much harder jobs. You might be able to just imagine an entire media company out of thin air. So at least for me, if my dream is to work from home and start a company that might find ways to give back to the world, and I take everything I learned from what I just said, I literally can do every aspect of this podcast professionally, from creation to production to release by myself on my back until it's ready to scale. And it's not that that's how I want it to be, because if anybody is talented and enjoys what we're doing and really wants to talk about getting involved, I'd be glad to talk to them. And my email's jameslane@AmericanReveille.com, or you can go to the website www.AmericanReveille.com and get a hold of me if you want to talk a little turkey. But at the end of the day, I didn't necessarily want to be a podcast host or anything, or write the way I do. I never thought about it. For years and years and years, I did many other things, just never imagining, but it just kind of fell in my lap. It's a culmination of putting together all of these different tools like we're talking about. I'm giving you examples. I'm not trying to brag or boast. And I promise you, my story is not a good one to be bragging about. But what I am telling you is that I did it. You can do it. There's all kinds of hidden talents you may have inside you that you've used these skills for other projects, other businesses, other jobs you've had, things you might not have done for 10 years that you could rebrand, repackage, and really turn things around for yourself without even realizing that you had it in you. Look, when you come across a purpose or you put together some of the other skills you had and you really have a eureka moment and you realize that there was a path there all along, it's great. It can be exhilarating. You really can turn things around. You might not even realize how close you are to being on that other side and to doing well. I mean, the ability to do something we love, something we feel passionate about, regardless of what that may be. I mean, isn't that in the end what we're all looking for, what we're all fighting for, what we all really should be striving for? It doesn't matter if you work for yourself or you work for someone else or you're an entrepreneur. You just want to be happy and have a purpose in this life. And sometimes digging into that imaginary tool shed is what it takes to find some of those old skill sets that you may have forgotten about or sometimes never even knew you had. So I really believe that if you just close your eyes and use your imagination, it forges that vision for yourself. It really allows you to take inventory of what you have and the different tools amongst the common tools just lying around the shed. I mean, I really believe that we all have our own arsenal of secret weapons, just old worn out tools shoved away, just waiting to help you find a new path to freedom, some purpose, and most importantly, happiness. I just want to be happy, don't you? I mean, I think that's simple enough thing to be entitled to, just a little happiness. And we'll talk about that a little more. But we have one more little self-promotion spot on this show where I will be shamelessly begging for your support. And don't worry, it's not financial. I just would like you to stick around for a while as we improve and make things better. So this is the American Reveille Podcast with James Lane, and we will be right back with the final segment of the show, and I'll see you there.
We'll be right back with more of the American Reveille Podcast with James Lane. The American Reveille Podcast with James Lane would like to take a moment to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to tune into the show. It's because of great fans like you that we strive to deliver the best quality content one can create as fast as one can fling the pen. With that being said, a good little boy never misses his opportunity to sell himself, and though James would never ask you for your money, he would like to let you know that if you absolutely love this podcast, the writing, the art, its production, anything, please do us the personal favor of liking, sharing, tweeting, texting, and talking about this podcast. James Lane is a father, a husband, a U.S. Navy veteran, and is personally committed to the success of the American Reveille Podcast. Please email James Lane directly at podcast@AmericanReveille.com, or please visit our website at www.AmericanReveille.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right, guys, we are back, and I hope you're enjoying the show so far as much as I am, and we're going to continue, like I said, to develop it really much deeper, and this is our 11th episode, so I want you guys to put down your egos and get back to work. And we closed out the last segment talking about using those old tools we forgot about in our tool sheds, and sometimes didn't even realize we had it all. We talked about what it takes to really evaluate ourselves and recognize that there may be hidden talents lying around inside of us that were never even utilized, and they're just waiting. They're waiting to be utilized. And like I said before, and I'm going to repeat it again, I think everybody is capable. They're capable of taking inventory, putting together a new pathway, kind of like Frankenstein's monster, but maybe a much more attractive monster, one that acts more and looks more like the person you were meant to become if you only took the chance, if you only would take the leap. It's basic risk and reward principles, guys. Risk and reward 101. So I keep saying worn out tools because there's a line from a Kipling poem from the late 1800s that makes mention of having to rebuild again and again with worn out tools. And that statement rings true, yet it creates a paradox for those who really have no idea about how long lasting success really takes to achieve and how much harder it becomes to maintain. The folks that are entitled and impatient are the people that this segment pretty much won't make sense to because they're not going to understand a simple fact that surrounds everybody. And here's that fact. Most of us will have to fail a bunch of times before we find success. And to take that even further, many people who fail a bunch are going to quit. This means that there's value to hanging in there, in achieving your goals. And also, if you have to reorient and start back at square one, start again at the drawing board like we talked about, because this becomes a do-over for you. You're armed already. You already know how to get there, so it becomes quicker. You're going to have to be prepared for this. The longer you play the game and the more times you fail, the more chances you have of getting to sneak your way in. And I'm not really saying sneaking. It's not sneaking. It's experience. It's mastery. You don't have to be experienced with a physical tool. You can be a Jedi with processes. It only takes finding the right processes once, the one thing that works for you. And then all you have to do is duplicate it. Look, the reason why many self-help books and business books and stuff don't always, and most of the time, don't solve problems for you, like some sort of magic genie in a bottle, and I'd say 99% of the time it doesn't solve this problem, is that there's no exact way to become successful besides really educating yourself both in the real world and, if possible, in the school world. Both bringing their own unique value to the game. You can find great success just with the knowledge gained from hard life lessons, and you can obtain it as well from school and education, and you can also be successful with both. It's a win-win-win situation that most people just don't wrap their minds around, and to be honest, most people don't even act upon it. So there's more significant value in understanding this because you can actually leverage anything once you really understand its inner workings. The issue with this, though, for most people always comes back to three separate things that I need you guys to understand if you really want this to be of value for you. One, the length of time in which you're willing to wait for something to be successful or be accomplished. How much effort you put into it. And then the last one is how consistent you are. I mean, folks, it's really that basic and simple. Time, effort, consistency. TEC, T-E-C. Time, effort, consistency. If you're really working long enough at something with enough effort, enough real juice behind it daily, if you're paying attention daily, you'll either find out that it's never going to happen for you or that everything's going to happen for you. People's minds live in these areas when they should be in the middle. Logically, you figure out if what you want to achieve is viable in the direction you're heading. And if it is, you go for it. And if after a little bit you find out it's not, you adjust course. It's funny. Look, we technically aren't going over anything new. We all know about time. We understand time. We know how much of it gets used and how much of it gets wasted. But what we never talk about is effort and what we're capable of, which is essential. Because if I worked hard at something I was semi-interested in, it would look like I was at the top of my game. But if I wanted something bad enough, it would look like I had a problem, like I was obsessed. And that's something that you notice about many successful people. Many of us have worked 24-hour days before, sometimes longer, not because we wanted to be disciplined, but because we were inspired or obsessed or driven. I mean, there's lots of shows out there that talk about how you live your life as a disciplined and driven person, but not many that discuss the real world for many of us before we ever reached that level of enlightenment, somewhere during the transition instead of after it. I mean, maybe that can be this podcast, but the effort side of the coin it's going to come more naturally to you if you've ever gone back to the drawing board and really focused on how you've had to turn bad situations around before, or how you've had to prepare for the possibility of it, at least, so that your chances of a positive outcome when things settle down are better. It's so important to understand that for most of us, it's not going to come easy at all to remain in the green during all the things you may go through, including the things many of us are going through right now. So to take that statement even further, many of us are going to suffer. And I really believe that many of us don't have to. And if you just say enough is enough and laser focus on something you can logically prove to yourself that you're capable of, not necessarily emotionally, not what your friends think, and not what people online like myself recommend for you to do, but for what you want to do, what you were always meant to do. So before I recap this episode, I will ask you again, and it probably won't be the last time you hear it, but here we go. How bad do you want it? Are you willing to go beyond your fears, your doubts, your insecurities? Are you ready to give the middle finger to all the stop signs in your life and pave your own road? I mean, yes, it's hard work, and yes, it's gonna suck to figure it out, but I promise you, if you find a path to some destiny, or at least some goal that fills you with passion and purpose, the hard work goes from hard to absolutely fulfilling. Difficulty slips away as dread turns into excitement, because you get the chance to solve another puzzle, not a problem, a puzzle. It's hard. And for many, it's nearly impossible. But at least for me, and for at least many of you I know that are listening, the word nearly tells me I have a chance. I know no one's going to stop me when there's at least a chance. The knowledge within the concepts we talk about on this podcast, they'll give you that ability if you want it bad enough. I got what you need, guys. Anyway, guys, we have just about another 3 minutes or so before the music kicks in and I have to send this ship sailing. But early on, we talked about looking inside ourselves and really understanding our own capabilities, our strengths, our weaknesses, and most importantly, who we really are and what we're made of, what we can handle. We also talked about how we can improve this. And if you really want to learn how to get firm, how to harden yourself, how to really manage that, I want you to check out episode 4 on Apple Podcasts. It's about turning your fear into a measuring stick. It's called Harness the Fear. It really draws a lot of correlation between fear and actually good opportunities, or maybe a little risk, but that fear is actually a guide towards an opportunity, not something that should make you run away from everything all the time. But if you really want to understand that and you haven't checked it out, check out episode 4 on Apple Podcasts. But we also got into this toolshed reference that we were talking about earlier, which I hope you enjoyed. The importance of the analogy was that all of us have a toolshed in the back of our psyche. It contains things that we're good at. And if we use these tools in differing combinations and in differing situations, you may find yourself achieving different results. And I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like the opposite of Einstein's definition of insanity. So basically, that's what sanity should look like. And finally, we got into the real fuel behind all this and the paradox surrounding the use of these tools, which, as you know, only work better when combined with the stacking effects of gained experience and consistent hard work. It's not rocket science. There's big, scary secrets that people think are surrounding all this, and they pay for them. But these really are basic. These are the things you learn in the street if you're smart enough to pay attention. And these are the things that you can also learn in the classroom if you're wise enough to break yourself against life a little. You may also be in the process of learning them for free from a podcast. Wink, wink. It's like putting on a different pair of glasses to see a different world. Things just start making more sense. The more life beats your ass, the more you get up. And it beats your ass again. You get up again. It beats your ass again. And then one day, you just don't go down anymore. Life cracks you in the jaw and you wink at it, you smile, you spit out a tooth like the movie Fight Club, and it bounces off the pavement. And when you get to that point mentally, that's when you really know you're ready to finally make it somewhere, to finally get some real success. And The universe will know too. Hard work's rewarded. If you've ever heard that saying that the harder you work, the luckier you get, it's not a bullshit saying. It's real. And it's because this shit stacks. It compiles. Just keep working your ass off in the right direction and the success will come. I know in my heart we're all going to succeed in the end, and they may be various levels of success, but I'm going to be here along the way to cheer you on, and I know you're going to be here to cheer me on too. So check us out on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Get to my website, AmericanReveille.com, James Lane at AmericanReveille.com. Let me know if shit's fucked up. Let me know if you like what we're doing. Let me know if the intro's too long. I've been hearing that a little bit too. If you want to blow my social media up and talk a bunch of crap about my intro, I'd be cool with that too. It'll give me a little motivation to make it shorter if that's what makes this better for you guys, and I'll meet you halfway and we'll figure something out. So until next time, folks, this is James Lane reminding you to get firm, stay firm, and I'm clocking the fuck out. Enjoy your Monday, guys. See you next week.